Fellas, welcome to the Fishing Filmmaker series where I talk about tech and techniques to make your fishing videos awesome. Frame rates. Whatever the technical specification you're looking at, you need to explain in an artistic and creative way why that technical specification is going to give you the look that you want. And I'll use a case in point, panfish over on the panfish. I'm always talking about panfish now because we are always talking about these things. Panfish has a very different sort of looking fishing video than I do. He has if you hear him talk, you hear him say things like, oh man, when I was a kid I always wanted to have a fishing TV show like, what's the guy that wears a Tennessee hat? You know, Bill Dance, you know, I wanted to have a Bill, you know. Well, if you watch his videos on a creative artistic level, his videos look a lot like fishing TV shows. That's great. That's a good thing. And as a result, because he's filming in that way, by definition, he's going to use a faster frame rate, especially because he wants to catch a lot of action. He wants to catch fish as he's catching fish and they're coming out of the water, or he's, you know, setting the hooks like the Jimmy Houston, you know, Jimmy Houston has those really epic hook sets. That slow motion or that type of action can only be captured with a higher frame rate. Like 60 frames a second is sort of a bare minimum. I'm shooting in 24 frames a second right now. Why do I shoot that? Because I want all my fishing adventures to look like documentaries. I want them to look like old, almost like old 1960s documentary films. Okay, nothing on the jugs again. We pulled 2 runs with the jugs. Nothing. With the old 16mm film, right? And I want them to look somewhat cinematic in terms of the way I can control the depth of field and to make it look somewhat of a dreamlike state, you know. So when I wave my hand, you see that blur, because one, that reflects real life. My artistic vision is realism displayed with elegant simplicity. So whatever you see in real life is what I'm trying to duplicate on camera, and then 24 frames a second really duplicates that well. But is there another reason why I would use, say, like my GH4 is capable of 96 frames per second? Well, yeah. If I were teaching people, I need to do some more updates on my how to use a hand line. So in my casting, teaching people how to cast, I would just crank up the variable frame rate and shoot 96 frames per second so that you can catch each stage. I can slow it down and show you every stage of the cast, because it's a pretty complicated and fluid movement to casting a Cuban yo-yo properly. Same thing with fly lines. It's the same reason, like for instance, panfishers wanting to catch the hook sets and the fish, you know, skyrocketing out of the water, that kind of thing. The frame rate you choose depends on the project that you're doing. Talking head videos like this, it doesn't really matter. If you want more of a TV sort of look, either choose 60 frames a second or 60i or 30 frames a second. If you're wanting to do lots of slow motion, quite frankly, 120 frames a second is what you need. 60 is just it'll down crank it a little bit, and it'll, you know, but you really 120 is really almost a bare, I mean, 120 is really like where it starts when it comes to slow motion. How do you know which camera to buy? Let's say you're someone who wants to shoot lots of slow motion. Well, the camera you choose gonna need to be able to do that. That's one of the great things about action cameras. They are designed to catch action, and here's why. They're wide angle lenses. See, this is the angle you hear is 50 millimeters. Wide angle lenses on those action cameras make the camera stable by definition. The smaller the lens, the smaller the lens, essentially the more stable it's gonna look. That's why people can wear action cams and it looks like they have a big camera on a steady cam, right? If I did that same thing with this GH4, it would just look like gross. As long as they're not doing this and it's on their hat, it's fine, but on their chest, it looks, you can see what they're looking at, you can see almost at their eye level, and it doesn't move a lot, and it's very stable because the body itself is stable, and you have a wide lens that's stable. And if you're shooting at 60 frames a second, you can catch those hook sets because you don't know when the fish is going to come out of the water, and you just have to be ready. 60 frames a second, you'll be more likely to get that. And if you really are wanting to crank it and you had an extra cameraman, you could do some 120 frame a second, that kind of thing, or the variable frame rate like here on the GH4. I don't shoot that way because I don't see the world that way. Shoot based on your artistic vision and the reasons you want to shoot the way you want to shoot. It's all subjective, it's all preference, but don't just say, oh, that sort of thing is just junk. That's not a legitimate reason. You need to have an artistic reason. For me, realism displayed with elegant simplicity, right? What I see with my real eye is sort of what I want to replicate there. That's why you won't see me using lots of, just epic slow motion, and I just won't see that because I don't see the world that way. But go watch a guy like Peter McKinnon. What was that? Matty, or whatever his name is. Watch those guys. The guy that, and the other guy, Matt Guthmother. Check. I'll probably maybe try to put links. Check out them. They do lots of slow motion, lots of just that epic sort of, that's the way they see the world. That's their mind's eye. That's really the way they see the world. That's what the world looks like to them in the mind's eye, as it say. That's an artistic term. I just don't see the world that way. I just don't see it that way, so I don't shoot that way. 60 frames per second literally means there's 60 pictures being taken every second that passes. 24 frames a second, almost every movie you've ever seen was shot 24 frames a second. Every time you go to, Infinity War, all that, 24 frames a second. The whole thing. And when you see 24 frames a second, oh, I'm watching a movie. Oh, I'm watching cinema. When you see 30 frames a second, you think, oh, I'm watching TV. I mean, you don't even know that's what you're thinking, but that's exactly what you're thinking because that's what you've seen all your life. Use that to your artistic advantage. And hey, if you like these videos, rate, subscribe, and I'll be coming out with more of these sorts of videos. And I'm always going to have my regular old fishing videos, guys. Don't worry. It's just that I love cameras. I love film. I love art, and cinematography combines a lot of the artistic love that I had back in my days of music in a whole new form, because I have sound to work with and light to work with and motion to work with, all blended together in a way that I love. And I love the fact that YouTube, we have this ability to take our respective artistic visions and capture them and put them on display for people to see. That's what's so great about this. Define your own artistic vision, select frame rates based on your artistic vision and nobody else's. Period. See ya.